Warcry can be a pretty difficult game to keep track of sometimes. Sure, they say that everything is available to download in Warhammer Community, but between White Dwarf updates, FAQs and erratas, big box releases, I'm talking about things like Bladeborn, Divine Blessings, battle traits, all of these things that have been added to the game that might be pretty difficult for someone who's just getting into it to navigate, and even people who've been playing it for a while might not necessarily know exactly where to find that information. So today that's what we're going to go through. We are going to look at every single update that the game has had. I'm going to point you towards a whole bunch of resources for that. When you see me talk about something, there's going to be a link going up there, there's going to be a little flashy light, and you'll be able to look up the relevant information for yourself. I have done videos on all of these topics, so that's what we're going to cover today. We're going to look at every single thing that's been added to the core game of Warcry that might not necessarily be easily findable over in Warhammer Community, and I'm going to point you towards all the resources you will need to check them out and use them in your games. Now, it's true that all of this information is readily available over on warcry.net, so I do urge everybody to go and check that out, but in my experience, it's easier to find something if you know what you're looking for in the first place. Okay, everybody, we did it. We absolutely smashed it last year. We hit that 3,000 subscriber goal. Then let's do it again this year. We're going for 5K. All you need to do is like and subscribe. And in fact, no, you don't need to subscribe. What I would like you to do now, after you finish watching this video, I've got a massive playlist of all sorts of things Warcry. Check out one of those videos and see if that's what you like. But if you want to throw some more support my way, you can join me here as a member. You can join me over on Patreon. You can join my Discord. Links for that are going to be down in the description below. Either way, you get to see stuff before it's released. You get to have a say into the kind of content that I create in the future. That's it from me for now. Let's get back to the video. Now, Warcry itself has had a number of really big updates over the last couple of years. There's the big boxes themselves. You've got things like Heart of Gur, Sundered Fate, Blood Hunt, and Nightmare Quest. All sorts of FAQs starting way back in November 2022. Divine Blessings were added in July 2023. New warbands, things like the Black Talons and updates to Flesh Eater Courts. That'll happen end of 23-24. More doubles boxes in the form of Hunter and Hunted, Pyre and Flood, and Briar and Bone. Of course, we have the massive Spring 2024 FAQ, which did a huge amount to shake up the game. We had the addition of battle traits with the release of Briar and Bone, and we had the big autumn update just gone in September, which added even more fighters to the game and updated some of those Bladeborn models. So the first thing that I want to talk about is I want to tell you guys where you can find all of the updated errata and FAQs. I've said already that you can find all of the rulings up on Warcry, but if you want everything in one place, I urge everybody to head over to Warhammer Community, go to the Warcry downloads page, and then you'll be able to see all of the erratas and all of the updates and all the FAQs for the game that there are at the moment. I kind of prefer this than just looking on specific pages over on Warcry, because I think that having everything in one place is a bit easier to digest and a bit easier to see what changes were made time over time. In terms of playing your games, there have only really been 3 major changes to the core rules that you guys need to be aware of. The first is moving under high terrain, which allows fighters who are too tall to duck underneath platforms like the Gnarlwood bridges, low-lying ceilings, that kind of thing. Secondly, there was a pretty big update to Rampage in the way it works from the core rules. You are not able to move the full distance of your fighter. You're only able to move up to the value of the ability. So if you're playing your games, that's something that you need to bear in mind. There was an update to the way that ranged fighters could shoot into combat if they are 3 inches away and they are still within range of their weapon. So normally if it's got no minimum range, they're able to shoot at enemy fighters even though they are not within 1 inch of them. And then finally, the last big major change to the rules was revolving around raised fighters, how they work, and how they interact with other mechanics on the game. Whereas before, raised fighters would be able to act and activate normally, now they can't, they're stuck where they are when they come back to life. The next big addition to the game, or rather the next kind of reminding people that they actually exist, were Bladeborn. Officially, they were not part of the game until the update in January 2023, which allowed legality of the old Tome of Champions book. Rules for these could be found on page 91 of White Dwarf 482. What Bladeborn allows you to do, and that whole mechanic, is bring in your Warhammer Underworlds fighters and use them in your Warcry warbands. Obviously, this is a massive thing. If you are a Warhammer Underworlds player, those Warhammer Underworlds warbands will give you some interesting tools to play with in your games. Those warbands, some of them are extremely flavorful. They have their own abilities and they have their own character and play styles. For example, I always like to bring this up. You've got the Exiled Dead, led by Daintelos, leading his electric zombies. You have the very interesting crackling arc stubble, allows them to do basically lightning damage. So you get to act like the Emperor and electrocute people who are close to you with ramping damage depending on the amount of other zombies that you have in play. That's just a little flavor of the kind of thing that Bladeborn bring to your warbands. The September 2024 update has put in a whole bunch of points adjustments for those older Bladeborn, so you'll be able to use them in your games without having to worry about, oh, are these old? Are these not pointed correctly? Are these balanced? The next big thing that was introduced to the game were Divine Blessings, released in issue 470 of White Dwarf. Divine Blessings, as a mechanic, are basically a way for you to more tailor your lists a little bit. You're able to pick a blessing for one of your fighters, pay the associated points cost for that blessing, and what that will do for you is allow you to modify your fighter's stats. So if you ever felt that one of your fighters didn't just have enough strength to be able to punch through armor, or just wasn't tough enough, didn't have enough wounds, or maybe even wanted to use its abilities and its reactions a little bit easier, there's a Divine Blessing for that. You buy it, you pay the points, build it into your roster, and you can use it. In terms of match play legality, all of the rules that we are talking about are basically match play legal, but they are optional. You need to have a discussion with your opponent whether you want to allow them or you don't want to allow them in your games. Most events around the world and any big tournaments have allowed Divine Blessings, so they are very much a part of standard Warcry as we play them today. Battle traits were added in the Briar and Bone box set. Essentially, it's a system that's supposed to encourage you to effectively bring warbands comprised of only one faction. So if you only wanted to play Horns of Hashut and you didn't want to ally things into your warbands, you would get a little bit of a boost for doing so. Some battle traits are better than others, depending on which warband you pick. All of this information is available in the Briar and Bone book and over on warcry.net. Finally, a number of new warbands have been released during this season, rules for which you will not find up on Warhammer Community or basically anywhere else officially, apart from over on Warcry. In total, there were 14 official bespoke warbands that have been released over the last few years. On top of that, there have been additional updates. Dark Oath got a brand new warband in the September 2024 update, along with the Ruination Chamber. Flesh Eater Courts got a whole update with the release of their Codex for Age of Sigmar. Similarly with Cities of Sigmar, and finally the Black Talons, they got their own rules. And that's it. That's everything that has been added to the game of Warcry, most of which you cannot find over on the Warhammer Community Downloads page. So now you know that it exists. Now you know where to find it. You can check that out for yourselves and make an informed decision as to if these are the kind of things that you want in your games. Personally, we use everything when we are playing in match play. The updates that are coming out of Games Workshop every 6 months or so continue to look at all of these individual mechanics and components, tweak them a little bit to make sure that we have as good a game as possible. It's nice that Games Workshop keeps adding different mechanics and elements to the game. There have been some surprises in there for me personally, I must say, but I'm excited to see what Games Workshop has to come out in the future. When it does come out, no doubt I will be covering them in detail. But yeah, that's it for me for today. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you like what you see, please don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, I've been Itan, this has been Off Musings, and we'll see you next time.